as a lot of you probably know from experiences that you might have tried already in virtual reality and augmented reality, the entertainment and art sector is massively innovating, and most artists don't think about it as innovating. They think about it as expression, self-expression, company expression, and doing what they love and pushing boundaries. I work a lot in the creative sector. I've worked with some of the talented folks on this panel. And most importantly, I want to give them the floor to talk about the exciting work they're producing and what inspires them most about this, this new arena of immersive and how it is extending their practice. But we're going to start, I'm going to ask the panelists to introduce themselves, their work, and how they got into immersive. So over to you first, Claire.
Hi, my name's Claire. I'm the creative director of Animated Technologies. We do animation, virtual reality, and augmented reality. So I guess I got into 3D about 10 years ago. I was doing traditional fine art on the side, doing a few exhibitions here and there. And then I ended up meeting some people that worked with 3D, and they were like, well, why don't you try transferring your skills? Move that over to 3D, and then I just fell in love with it because it was artwork that I could do something with as well. It was tangible, something you could make it interactive. You could do things with it. Not that art isn't great to look at and invoke feelings and everything, but like having something that can be useful. I think what I love the most as well is going from the start of a product or start of something. And going from, you know, doing a storyboard or just sketching out these ideas or wireframing, and then taking it further and further and collaborating with other people, because you always need to collaborate if you're going to make something big. You have to be with like a group of people and creating something, and then even putting it into VR, and that's like a whole world that you've created. I'd say like my favorite things to do really is lighting, create materials, everything that kind of makes a 3D environment. And sort of like my inspirations are like Pixar, obviously, who doesn't love Pixar? And just like that soft style as well. And then trying to recreate that in real time, there's the challenge. Because obviously real time, you know, it's a lot more challenging as well than just a render, because you've got to think about factors like your poly count, you've got to think about your material sizes, and there's just like that added extra bit of challenge to it as well. And then now with the Oculus, with it being like almost like a finished product now, where it's just one nice easy piece that you can put on your head, it just feels so powerful to be able to have that artwork in an environment. Yeah, and that's me.
I think Alan will relate to quite a few of those talking points. So Alan, over to you.
Yeah. So my name is Alan Magee. I'm a visual artist, and my practice would be on the more kind of conceptual aspect of things. I would say it's predominantly sculptural in nature, and in that I would be quite maybe skeptical or critical of materials and mediums that I use, so I don't really take anything for granted. So I have that same approach to a lot of the technology that I've been using recently. So in my work, I've been exploring ideas around labor and work, and obviously anything to do with work nowadays is embedded in ideas of technology, automation, and kind of mediation. So that brought in other aspects of my work, for example, using ARVR, using robotics and things like that. But all the time very much being critical of the medium and not just going with the wow of it. So that also led me, and I'm currently studying a PhD as well in TU Dublin, and I'm exploring, I guess, the process of digital sculpture production and looking at where the artist's body is within that. So it's a very old debate, the Cartesian mind-body split. It has obviously been thrown back into the mix by a lot of VR, AR, and then again with our last 2 years of Zoom life during COVID. And so these kind of questions are something that I'm kind of philosophically and conceptually engaging in, and looking at, you know, the different experiences about production of a digital sculpture, but also in the reception of how you encounter digital sculpture. Because obviously, anytime you create something digitally, it has to be materialized, whether that's through a screen or a headset or a projection for your phone or something with a lot more money behind it. There's still a kind of materialization, and then that changes the nature of what you're experiencing and how you encounter it. So these are the kind of things that I'm exploring at the moment in the work and also in the studies. So that's what I'm here today.
Myself and Joe spent quite a bit of time in Museum of Other Realities the other day. If you haven't been in that platform, I can't recommend it enough. And it's a virtual expo, so there's artists' work is constantly changing within that platform, and it's off the charts. Like, what a way to experience sculpture and digital sculpture. So Joe, over to you. Tell us about your work.
Thanks, Camille. I'm Joe Mangan without an E. That's a kind of internal joke. My hair is short. I am a she, her, just in case. So I'm a theatre director by trade. Started off 100 years ago directing theatre. I've been directing opera recently, a bit of circus. But all the time I was the tech expert in any organization I worked in or running my own company, the Performance Corporation. I was always the one fixing the computers, getting down and dirty with the wires, pushing on ahead with, like, you know, tutorials online to find new software to do whatever the hell we wanted to do. Made work using FM radio technology years ago for live interactions for the public to be able to engage with work in cars, in headsets, and started going to tech conferences and started to see a lot of arts wraparound work. So tech conference, lots of really interesting things. The arts out in the corridor, some bloke usually pressing some buttons, it doesn't work. It worked yesterday, I swear it worked yesterday. I was just like, there has to be something more. We have to be able to bring our the show must go on-ness to technology. Now, that is not an easy thing to do, as I just discovered, but I've been on the process of doing that. So I've been making work that is using virtual reality in particular. We premiered a piece at Dublin Theatre Festival last year called Emperor 101, which then we were able to bring to South by Southwest with the support of Digital Catapult. Thank you, Nigel McAlpine, who's here with us. And we were in the UK house, semi-ironically, being an Irish company, but we were working with a company from Belfast called Retinize, who created this really interesting platform that they made for animation, but that can be really manipulated to create fantastic 360 environments where you have control of the aesthetic. So I had been doing things like running the Carlow Arts Festival for 5 years, working with Camille as a curator to bring virtual work to the public, but also to create a virtual festival platform in alt space. But I was really restricted, I felt, by the aesthetics that were on offer, by the avatars that our people could have. So this piece that we did at South by Southwest was live. One of our actors was in Lanzarote on our holidays. One was in Dublin. The server was in Belfast, and we were there with headsets, whacking them on anyone we could find, so they could have that extraordinary experience of a live performer in the virtual realm with the audience. I'm also working with Irish National Opera on creating a beautiful piece of work that is an opera, but created with algorithm here in Dublin. And that is being premiered at Kilkenny Arts Festival this year. And I also facilitate a lot of artists to get their hands on the gear, because we ask really difficult, sticky questions. We have wonderful encounters with developers where we say, can you do that? They say no. They go home, they spend all night coding like mad things. They come back and go, not only can we do that, but we can do that plus, plus, plus. So I'm really excited to be at that junction with developers, pushing each other to create and make better things in AR and VR, but particularly VR.
Thanks, Joe. And we might talk about the space program in a bit, just to build on kinds of initiatives that are happening to bring artists and tech together to explore and push boundaries. Often the artists don't necessarily have the context for the tech, and that's amazing, because as Joe said, you really do extend the possibilities. Dafydd, over to you. We've mentioned avatars here. I'd like to see your extension of avatars for your work.
Great, thank you, Camille, and thank you so much for inviting me to join the panel today. So my name is Dafydd Williams. I'm the founder and artistic director of Ulster Opera. We are a cross-border charity, non-for-profit charity based in Belfast, and as well as live cross-border touring, we also are interested in how immersive technology can increase access to opera above and beyond what we can do in theatres. So, for example, we've just finished our Night of the Opera tour, where we visited Donegan, Cavan, Monaghan, as well as 4 venues in Northern Ireland. And on that tour, we were demonstrating and showcasing the first of our augmented reality opera experiences. So we're interested in particularly volumetric capture and how that can bring the performers into any spaces so that environments become opera sets. Like Joe, I'm a stage director by training, and I worked with a range of companies like Wexford Festival, English Touring Opera and Welsh National Opera before setting up Ulster Touring Opera. And I got into the field of immersive technology thanks to an Arts Council of Northern Ireland seed funding grant back in 2020, which is also supported by Future Screens NI. And I'll also make a shout out to Digital Catapult NI and Nigel for his continued support of what we're doing in immersive technology. And really that funding pot allowed us to, it was a really blue skies thinking pot. So we collaborated with Volograms, who I believe are here today, and also Centerreal, to create an AR Don Giovanni project, which we're actually demonstrating later on in the exhibition hall. So please do come along and try it. And thanks to that initial funding pot and that initial support of our work, we've continued to receive more encouragement, thanks to Future Screens NI and lately NI Screen, who took us on to their innovative XRX program, which we were part of the first cohort. It takes 3 companies and really opens up the opportunities for that company to explore immersive technology. So that's enabled us to build an app so that we can then get these volumetric captured performances and these augmented reality operas out to the public. And I've got an ARVR Innovate premiere now, because I can announce that we are in the final stages of creating a collaboration between Ulster Touring Opera and Queen's University Belfast for a studentship, a PhD studentship, exploring immersive reality opera. It's a really exciting development because at the same time, Queen's University in Belfast are developing a £3 million media lab where they'll be exploring not only virtual production, but also volumetric capture. So this is a really interesting way of kickstarting, the next stage of immersive opera content in Northern Ireland. And I'll be one of the supervisors on that PhD. So it's a really exciting time for immersive technology and opera and what we can explore. So that's me.
Thanks so much, Dafydd. It's interesting because when we were working on we are still working on the Irish National Opera virtual reality opera called Out of the Ordinary. I thought this was super niche, like how many virtual reality or augmented reality opera productions could there be globally? Tons is the answer. And it actually probably makes sense because opera is an all-encompassing art form that encompasses all art forms. So it makes sense maybe that it's being brought to these new immersive medias to engage in completely new ways. So to carry on the conversation, and I'll probably come back to you again, Claire, if that's okay. So as we know, as artists, we get excited easily, but obviously we need to kind of get past the hype of the tech and the possibilities for the tech. But even still, it's the excitement and inspiration that kind of drives us in our work. So I'd like to talk to each of you about what excites and inspires you about the possibilities of immersive, and maybe even toys that you haven't played with yet that you're excited about what's going to come.
I think I'm most excited about pass-through technology. So it's the mix of AR and VR together. I feel like it could be the thing that could combine the 2 things as well, because obviously the VR is you going into that virtual world, whereas the AR is you experiencing that world around you. So to have the both combined is just going to be amazing.
Yeah. Have you played with it much yet?
We've been doing a bit of testing with some of it, but the cameras on the VR headset's still not quite there. So yeah, but there is obviously new release of Quest 3 coming out soon, so that they promised us that they will have better cameras on there. So instead of the grayscale that you get at the moment, you'll get like proper color, HD. It'll be nice, smooth, clear, and yeah, proper pass through.
Yeah.
So combining the two.
And I think like most of the AR glasses that are coming, they're talking
Yeah.
about that capability as well. So this is, it's also known as doggy view. So when you double tap on your Quest, you see the camera view of your actual reality there, so you don't bang into walls, but it's really interesting artistically. So you can have this blend of augmented and virtual reality. Alan, what excites and inspires you about immersive?
Yeah, I think I'd probably build on what Claire was saying. I think one of the things that I'm quite interested in is how we can understand and evaluate a digital object. And in a VR world, you're surrounded by the entire world. So things tend to just move into the realm of kind of potentially make-believe. As much as we try to simulate reality, it's, you know, it's like watching a movie. Somebody can fly, that's cool, they can fly. But once you get into AR, then suddenly what exists there within AR is grounded within reality. So there's different expectations with it. And things then, so in VR, you see a floating sculpture, you're thinking, okay, sculpture floats, that's cool. But in AR, then suddenly you've got these tangible reference points. You can look at the wall, the ceiling, you're like, okay, I know this thing's 3 meters big. That's huge, that's pretty, you know, and you get a very physical, bodily reaction to something that's not there, which in VR, that tends to work differently. Because your sense of scale, these things just kind of, they soften and blur and you don't get them. But within AR, you can re-engage your reference points. So your body is how we read sculpture. You know, you stand in front of something, it's small, it's like a trophy, it's huge, it's intimidating. You've got these kind of Richard Serra sculptures, and it's all about making the viewer feel something against, you know, this impressive object. In AR, you can re-engage that experience.
Yeah,
Which is very different in VR. And VR is super exciting as well. And you've kind of got the whole, everything feels a little bit like the gaming world, which a lot of artists are really running with, because that's a huge part of pop culture now. And it's really exciting, really interesting. But then the quote unquote real world then allows you to kind of change things in a different way. So that's what I'm quite excited about. And again, the materialization is the next step. So being able to eliminate the frame, because the frame is the last element of real and not real, because you're aware that you're looking through either glasses or something. There's a box inside which has a kind of a angled mirror hologram feel to it, which is quite exciting. So any of these kind of things where you can kind of dissolve the bridge between those, I think is where things are going to move on.
Especially with lighting now as well, with lighting in AR now as well, they've got, it's, you know, like it can take all the lighting and everything from the surrounding area, can't it? And it can work that out and be able to put that lighting onto the model that's in the environment, and that is going to solidify that in the real world even more.
Yeah,
I'll add sound to that as well. So spatial audio, you know, having the audio for something react to the actual space that you're experiencing in, also helps to kind of take away that lens and that cognitive dissonance, and really start to make them real.
yeah. And regarding the hardware, say the Magic Lens, for example, or the Magic Leap even. So currently your field of view is very limited, and it's about a playing card kind of size. The next one is going to be the size of a phone, or a paperback book is actually what they've said. So that's going to make a massive difference. So we're going to have a field of view like this instead of like this.
I'm kind of interested in, well, I got really bored with low poly and dots in VR very quickly, just because it's easy to do and because it's not expensive in terms of, you know, when you're working with design. So what I've been interested in working with recently is artificial intelligence and generating visuals using artificial intelligence, and then grabbing some of that with an artist that I'm working with, and creating more surreal and interesting environments, because I think there's something still really, really literal about how a lot of people approach design. And in a virtual realm, I find it kind of fascinating that people are still building stages to put theater on, or building little houses to, I don't know, it's just why. You can do whatever you want. Like mountains can come from the ceiling. Liquid can flow sideways. Like we can do whatever we want in the virtual world. So even working with, say, young designers that are coming out of college, we're just people, human beings. We're really quite literal, and we really like a nice straight narrative. So trying to disrupt that, I think, is challenging. So even with young folks that I'm working with, I found bringing AI into the conversation and allowing that medium to make unusual choices, and then leaning into those unusual choices, cutting and pasting them, and bringing that into VR and kind of making almost like a flat pack version of the world around you that isn't 3D'd. If you look closely, it's actually 2D'd. So I'm excited about that kind of thing, and that's to try and disrupt the bloody triangles and dots, because come on.
Explode the aesthetic.
That's it.
Dafydd, what
Well, I'll completely lean into what Joe was saying about working with young people in this medium, because actually that's something, maybe it's slightly more particular to opera, but we have a lot of stereotypes around the art form that we work in. And one of the big things that all opera companies are trying to do is to break those and to reach new audiences and find out what that future audience is for opera, make sure that audience is as inclusive and diverse as possible. And immersive technology, I believe, is one pathway for us to make sure that we can generate that audience of the future. And what was really interesting, I saw Nico from Volograms earlier, and he'll talk later about what they're doing around the kind of social media piece with Volume, and building things, even simple things like a video function into this AR opera we have, means that you can take a video and put that onto TikTok. And suddenly that is something which can reach audiences who may never have considered going to the theatre, let alone going to an opera. So that's a really exciting potential for our work. I've spoken about spatial audio, and I think that's, in some ways, spatial audio and sonic art has been waiting for this moment, because it really kind of provides another purpose and reason for that experimentation. And specifically to volumetric capture, it's really interesting to think about the point where we can do live broadcast volumetric performance, because then we start to be able to hand some power back over to performers who have obviously been very hard hit by the effect of streaming platforms. And live performance is one of the ways that they've been able to retain revenue, and bringing that into the immersive sphere with live broadcast is something that's really, really exciting. And that crosses across all musical genres, not just opera. And
it's something that I guess I'm interested in exploring next with that recent piece that we did at Theatre Festival in South by Southwest, is I want to do a version of it that hasn't got avatars, but that we're using motion capture, live motion capture. So live motion capture in the virtual environment was something we were playing with recently, Alan was involved in, and that's going to be great. Mm-hmm. Just need to get some decent networks around the country and the world, and we'll be fine.
Mm-hmm. And funding for all of this play. So I want to talk a bit about audiences. So a lot of us create work for audiences. So how does immersive extend the possibilities about connecting with audiences and potentially new audiences? And given the kind of difficulty around the branding of opera, Dafydd, I might actually kick off with yourself. So if you can talk a bit about how this how immersive extends the reach to new audiences.
Well, our hope is that it will. It's a big experiment, and there's something really exciting about particularly the volumetric field at the moment. It feels like, particularly, I was lucky enough, thanks to Digital Catapult support, also joined Joe out in South by Southwest this year, and get to talk to a lot of people who are kind of leading on the volumetric capture side of things, and even people, Microsoft and Dimension Studios. It feels like film in the early 20th century, volumetric capture now, because we're all experimenting with what the best type of production pipeline is for it, how those can be created both through technology and software. And so there's an experimentation on that side of things. There's an experimentation with how audiences will react to it. We've started to do some research around that. So we worked with Thrive, which is an audience development agency in Northern Ireland, on our spring tour to evaluate some of the feedback from our augmented reality testing, and the feedback was very positive. What was really interesting about some of that feedback was the kind of correlation between the amount of time that someone would take to experience the app and age. So for our older audiences, they were less willing to kind of hold an iPad up for 5 minutes and kind of explore it and see what that was going. Usually the kind of duration would be about a minute or so. As you went down the demographic scale towards the younger end, they would not only stick around for the 5 minutes, they would explore from different angles, they would do it again, they would get their parents to come and stand in it. So there was really kind of on the ground evidence that there is engagement, and that's what we are hoping with it. And then obviously we want to build that into an ecosystem. So on our app, you can then move through to all of our social media channels and also to our live performances, because that's what we're doing. You know, we're a not-for-profit company. This is part of our audience development work. And we are here trying to engage young audiences in an exciting experience so that when they are later in life and come across opera, they feel less barriers. And that's the exciting potential for it for me.
Yeah, I think it potentially is connecting in a way with people who don't go to theatre. And unfortunately, there's a lot of people who don't go to theatre. As somebody who didn't grow up with theatre and kind of encountered it later enough in life, and has gotten nothing but joy and wonder out of it professionally, I'm always keen to find ways to engage people broadly with the arts, frankly, but theatre specifically. So personally, I would rarely make work in a theatre space, in a conventional art space. I'm always looking for a way to bring the arts to people. So for example, the next show I'm doing is in the wilds of Belmullet in County Mayo, in and on a tidal pool with a lot of music and performance and dance, etc. So the likelihood of any of those people that are knocking around Belmullet in September of this year coming to, you know, I don't know, a big place that calls itself an art centre in the east of the country is nil. So it really allows you, I look at it as another site-specific tool. So I love making theatre, making performances in places that are not art-specific. So this to me is another way to make performances in a space that is not art-specific. And young people really in general don't go to theatre unless they get involved in youth theatre at a very early age. And even at that, it tends to be didactic and issue-based. And it's like, oh, why would you ever come back? Or it's Shakespeare that's rammed down your throat for the Leaving Cert. So if I as an arts practitioner, am interested in ensuring that the art form I work in continues to live, and it's, you know, it's been around quite a while, so I'm kind of keen for it to stay going. I think this is another wonderful tool in that arsenal. So engaging with young folks who, you know, game. They all game, they're all gaming. So it's like, it's kind of like how I've approached programming as a curator. So running festivals, I would like give people what they know they want up front, talk about it, make it free. And then when they're not looking, sneak in a bit of opera or a bit of contemporary dance in the shopping center or whatever. Just it's a gateway drug, you know, it's like, that's the way I'm looking at it.
Alan, audiences.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting to pick up on what Joe was saying there. It's something that the art world is definitely always engaging in. The question of the context. There's a lot of criticism in contemporary art when you see something that doesn't look like art, a shoebox in a gallery, or these kind of things that are kind of recontextualized in a white cube space, and therefore they get an aura and a power. And so when you decontextualize that, bring it back into the everyday, like having dancers on a beach, you know, in the middle of nowhere, things change slightly. And that's what kind of immersive technologies can do. You can work as a creative making something, and you control all the environments of how you think it should be displayed. But once it's gone off in the ether, you've no idea in what context it's going to be received. And that's very exciting as well, but it also has certain questions. Obviously, there's a kind of a privilege to be able to own a lot of the kit that needs to engage with this. So you can't presume that every audience is going to have iPads or headsets or that kind of thing. And that's something that we always kind of think about as well. But there is the possibility for it to go around the world. So bringing it back to something quite analog in terms of a sculpture, you could have the same sculpture shown in twice at the same time simultaneously, if it's in kind of a virtual world, or you can have it travel kind of almost for free. So there's various things that can happen in that way, which is quite nice, that go way beyond the scope of its analog counterparts. But yeah, even within a kind of institution, you can still piggyback off the technology, the money and the infrastructure of a museum or a gallery or theatre, and have something existing in different spaces that still have a connection to that aura of a big building, if that's something that you need.
Yeah, so it becomes scalable and sustainable.
Yeah, well, that's the goal, that's the question, really.
Claire, would you talk a bit about audiences?
Yeah.
What's happening in Wales, maybe? Like in terms of where are people going to arts organisations to experience immersive, or how do people in Wales experience immersive?
Well, I would say when it comes to immersive, I don't think we have enough, to be honest with you. But that could just be my personal opinion, because
we all agree.
We all should be immersed in everything. I think like so far in terms of like adoption of like VR from audiences and things, it has been, you know, fairly slow, but then it's only recently that VR has felt and looked like a finished product, and sort of now that Mark Zuckerberg's helping us along with getting the Quest into shops, I think, and the fact that it's like £300, which is, you know, quite a cheap piece of kit, considering how much, you know, look at like 10 years ago, it costed thousands, not to mention that at least £1,000 for a PC just to plug the thing into. So I think despite how much I really don't like Facebook and the fact that you have to log in and to use the Oculus, there is that added benefit that it is a lot more accessible to audiences now with the price of it. And I think that's really going to help. I think that's really going to help. I think sort of like more things like this sort of going on, you know, more companies and artists and everyone building everything up. I think it's going to start to be the norm with audiences, and they're going to adopt it and they're going to take it on.
Yeah, like pre-COVID, the prediction was for 5 years, so this would have been in 2019, early 2020, the prediction was that for the next 5 years, people would go somewhere to experience immersive media and immersive technologies. They would go to their science gallery, to their art organizations, to a community centre, to a VR arcade, so you would go somewhere. Obviously, COVID really shook that up, and a lot more people have headsets in their homes, which essentially turns your living room into a potential stage. So speaking of stage, I think we're nearly out of time. A couple of questions? Brilliant. Okay, so we have time for a couple of questions. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I just had a question. Have you guys ever looked at gaming platforms to do your performances in? So, for instance, Fortnite recently had a rapper Travis Scott did a concert. He had 20 million viewers live just because he used that platform, and he was using volumetrics. They made an avatar of him, very realistic, and he had 20 million kids watching him at the same time. He made about £10 million just from that one performance, and he went for 15 minutes. That sort of thing. And the other thing is Roblox as well. Roblox is a really good platform to use to do your performances in, because the kids have already got that. They don't need a headset. They've got a gaming console, or they've got a PC, and it just gives much more broad. Have you thought of doing that as well?
No, there is something I have been following that sounds a bit like that. It's called Wild RP. So it's pretty much Red Dead Redemption. Somebody's taken parts of the game engine and rebuilt the entire game, but with all these bits of functionality, so that they can act out parts. So they've got like this server where there's just like, to be in this, you have to apply, you have to send in like an actor's reel and all of this, and you have to be like a certain caliber of like actor as well to do it, and then they sort of like they show it in clips, so it's like put together as a series, but it's like most of it's role play, but they have like a bit of a storyline, and then the rest they kind of go off the cuff with. But like some of the performers on there, it's kind of like, wow, this improvisation is amazing, and they make a gripping story with it, and it's all within a games engine.
Awesome. That sounds great. I'm going to check that out. Joe, you might have some comments on.
No,
Benches.
I do. I mean, yeah, but there's another gentleman wanted to ask a question. I'm just conscious time is running out.
Sorry, for the audience point of view, do you see a time where equipment will be available? So harder hearing, for example, customers go to the theater and could attend a play that they could not hear otherwise, but read the subtitles, or making that accessibility to a wider audience at home or traveling, or, you know, that physical position doesn't really matter, but it's more kind of the technology kind of helping the art forms to be more accessible to people that do not have access otherwise. And where do you see that applying, even starting today?
I think it's already happening, actually. I mean, there's a small number of companies, particularly in the theatre realm internationally, and I would include our own in that are playing with live performance in the virtual realm, but also including physical performance within that. So when we did our piece in the theatre festival, there was the physical performers in the room, there was also the virtual element, and then invisible audience. So we were limited in terms of numbers just because we wanted to be careful about the network. But I think once things get to a certain stage, we're going to be able to have live and virtual and remote happening simultaneously. And that's where I see is the exciting place. We just need good content, though. Like, there's a lot of kind of piss poor content, in truth, you know? Like, you need an actual writer who knows how to put dialogue together, who knows how to construct a story, who knows how to construct, you know, it's something that people are interested in. You need good actors. Like, it's not good enough to just go, I've got a headset and a mic, so I'm just going to perform it myself and write it myself. There's a reason why there are professionals in our field, frankly, you know, that make a living out of it. Not everybody can do everything.
And just to tack on, we're thinking about just sticking a 3D 360 camera on the stage during our dress rehearsal for spring 2023 Barbara Seville and recording it. You know, we haven't seen many companies which have done that, but it means that we can then port that into VR. So then that can be broadcast and experienced in lots of different ways. Things like that, just throwing the technology into this and seeing what happens. That's the way we make these discoveries.
Yeah, and I know the Audiences of the Future initiative in the UK is trialling a lot of these pilots to measure the efficacy. So, for instance, the National Theatre do have AR glasses for accessibility and signing on the glasses. So yeah, we will see more. So we're out of time. So there's so much creative experiences that you can try. Please come in and try as much content today as you can. This is a really great opportunity to get down and dirty with the tech, and please do talk to any of us about your projects. Thank you.
Thank you.